All right, here we are back once again for number three, and I am here with the amazing Jade Inspiration. Hey, Jade, how you doing?
Good, Mike. Thank you. How are you?
And this is I'm awesome. Now we've been recording these back to back, so we've actually been together for a few minutes here, but these are coming out over a couple weeks. What is it that we're doing here over these couple episodes? Why don't you let everybody know?
Are you kidding me?
Did I catch you off guard?
Yeah, I mean, because what we talk about really is how people can harness their power
Hmm.
to heal from the past and make their life amazing as they can be. And it's about going back to healing from past hurts, healing from past traumas. And I think one of the question is that I've heard a lot is, well, how do I know? I mean, I'm an adult now, and how can my childhood experiences be affecting me today? Why is it possible? No one else seems to be affected. And that question is a very good one because everybody is affected by their childhood in different ways. But really, in this moment is what's really important. In this moment, are you taking the actions to get what you want? Are you taking the risks that will create the life that you want? And that means anything from, creating your own business to asking somebody out or, taking on a bigger and better job. Anything that causes you to stop and not go for it. What is it? It could be inner child. It could be your childhood experiences that have taught you that you're not good enough. So don't go for it because you might just get disappointed. So I think our experiences in childhood don't have to be traumatic. They don't have to be physically violent in order for us to perceive ourselves as not good enough because it could come from the way people have talked to you when you were a child, or it could come from your own perception of being a failure. So it really depends on what's coming into your mind and what you're holding in your belief system, which becomes a ritual, which becomes something that can be triggered as far as an emotional hurt that was experienced in your past.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It doesn't have to be some big traumatic event or prolonged abuse or violence or anything like that. It can, and a lot of times, just be the way you perceive a situation. The idea behind that is that we learn from experience. So we experience something, and the conclusion that we draw just isn't a valid conclusion in the real world, right? We misinterpreted something that we saw, we misapplied it. And if we're trying to do that over and over again in the world and not getting the results that we want, then it's revealing that kind of mismatch there, right?
Well, absolutely, absolutely. And the great thing is, because if you find yourself limiting yourself as far as taking risks and going outside of your comfort zone, I think going outside of your comfort zone is the biggest attribute to your life because it's going to get you to where you want to go, so that your experiences in life get bigger and bigger. And the more experience you have in life, the more confidence you will build. So I think that confidence comes from, even if you don't know the source of your fear, you don't know the source of your negative self-talk, that's okay, but you know it's there. And if you know it's there, then hey, you can sit with it. Okay, I don't want to do this podcast because I've never done a podcast before. And I said that to myself before I started my podcast. I go, how can I do a podcast? I've never done it before. But at the same time, I knew that if I started doing podcasts and I started hosting podcasts, that I'd become better and better at it. So what I did was, yeah, I was afraid, but that's okay. I'm going to do it anyway. So the more and more often you push through your fears or you push through your negative self-talk and you do something anyway, then you become more and more confident, and it changes the entire perspective of any experiences or opportunities that come your way, to where you say, I'm afraid, but it's okay. I'm going to keep going.
And I
And
think
it's a process.
I think that really goes to what's at the core of all this, which is emotional health. If you are emotionally healthy, you will feel anger and sadness and sorrow and disappointment and grief and all these things. It doesn't mean you're just happy and positive all the time, but you use those tools for what they were intended for. You feel fear, but you can trust yourself enough to step into it. And I think the real warning sign or red flag is when you don't trust yourself, or when you've got like if you've got a self-esteem problem, if your emotions are mismatched to the situation, if you're over or underreacting in anger in cases where it's inappropriate in either direction. So how, how do part of me wants to say, like, if you have those kinds of challenges, I almost don't even imagine how you'd get there without some kind of trauma. Am I mistaken in that? Like, what's your take on that, Jade?
Well, you know what? I think you make a very good point because if we want to find the source of our pain, if we want to find the source of our negative thought process, then we'd be able to face that source, change our perceptions about it, change our beliefs about it if we know what the source is. But a lot of times we don't. A lot of times our memory almost shuts down because sometimes our memories and our experiences are too painful. So, in order for us to live in life, sometimes we have to throw out the stuff that is too painful to handle. So, and then we go into possibility of just denial, and perceiving like being berated as a child. You don't feel that has a negative effect because either you feel you deserve that berating or you feel that it was a natural process or that it was normal to be berated that way.
So we
And
end
these
up
are
kind of discounting that experience that was damaging, but since we just kind of write it off as normal or expected, or I didn't have as bad as
I
somebody
deserved
else,
it.
or I
Yeah.
just then we just kind of don't consider that as one of the possibilities as a source here is what we're getting at.
Yeah, and you know what? That's okay. Don't beat yourself up. Because I mean, we don't always know the source of our pain, but we do know that we are in pain. And I think our emotions are definitely ways to help us understand that we have something to work on. There's something there. But if you have an emotional hit about something, then you could kind of find ways to change it and find ways of changing your belief system, whether or not you know the exact source of that erroneous,
Yeah.
painful belief about yourself.
And the idea of like repressed memories is somewhat controversial, but dissociation is pretty widely accepted psychologically as an actual thing. And that's our tendency to kind of remove ourselves or depersonalize situations, especially if they're extremely violent or traumatic. And so that's a possibility too. If or something that happened when we were very young that we may not have a great memory of. It's not uncommon to be impacted emotionally. We carry emotion in our bodies. If our bodies are impacted in that way when we're very young, it's not uncommon to carry that with you for your entire life without having that conscious memory.
Well, precisely, absolutely, and you bring up a very good point. We hold that negative energy in our body. In fact, I'm a certified energy healer. Energy healing is a part of the process of letting go of the negative energy in various ways. So it really has to do with, wow, I've had a traumatic experience, or we also learn just by watching and observing how our parents interacted. We observe how, our brothers and sisters interact or how they interact with their girlfriends or boyfriends or how people treat each other. We're very observant when we're children, but we take in the information, but we're not able to matriculate or intellectualize everything.
And
But
the
somehow it gets embedded as a process. I can't trust people. Why?
right.
Because I saw my mom and dad. They were hurting each other all the time. How do you, is that normal? Sometimes we grow up thinking that negative behavior is normal.
And that's almost the real most devastating part of all this is that a very common side effect of abuse is feeling like there's something wrong with me, like I deserved it, which is going to make you not look to that for a solution because you think you've already got a solution. Obviously, there's something wrong with me. I deserved it. And so it really sets us up to feel very stuck and trapped in this situation, which we are not happy with, which we don't know what to do about, but yet we at the same time keep kind of recreating in different ways throughout our lives.
You're absolutely right. It's spotting the cycle of repeated mistakes or repeated feelings of not good enough or just repeating the same dating the wrong people over and over again,
Yeah.
and making those belittling decisions, taking on the smaller, let's say, jobs or your career, to where you don't want more responsibility, you don't want to have to be right, you don't have to rise to the occasion because you don't have the self-esteem or confidence to do it.
Yeah.
But you do, you
And
always do.
I think that goes to the real red flag here. The thing that you can look for. There's no way that you can know if you're in this situation how you got there. But the thing to look for is you're not supposed to be in pain. You're not supposed to be frustrated. You're not supposed to be depressed. You're not supposed to be holding yourself back from your business in fear. So if you see that you're doing that, you don't have to know how you got there or how to get out of it. You do have to be willing to ask for help and to acknowledge that there's something going on here. I'm in some way involved in it and I need to get this unraveled. Find a coach, find a therapist. It's their job to help you figure out why that's happening and what to do about it. It's your job to enter into that healing and keep moving forward.
Right, exactly, exactly. It starts with your awareness. It continues with your openness to other ideas and other perspectives, and it comes with your desire to not want to be in pain, to know that you are worthy of happiness, you are worthy of feeling worthy, and you do have everything it takes to really create the life you want and be the person that you are. And when you reach out and you tap into the resources that are all around you, including this podcast, the Be Build Have podcast, you can really harness your true essence. But always love yourself every moment of the way, because the process goes up and down. You'll have good days and bad days, but you'll always get closer and closer to your utopia, to your magnificent life.
Just have to keep moving for it. So 12 seems to be our magic number in terms of time. We're right at 12 minutes again. And so I've been having a great time. I'm so glad we've been able to do these videos. And thank you for joining me, Jade Inspiration from the Right On Baby Inner Growth Show podcast and jadeinspiration.com. Now you do mine.
Thank you, Mike. You are absolutely amazing. I love your podcast.
Awesome. And I think we have one more. So far we've talked about, see, I already signed off and now I'm going to keep talking. That's probably a mistake in broadcasting, right? So we talked about inner child healing. We talked about how our past influences our present. We talked about what to do if we don't recognize the emotional trauma. And we're going to come back for I think, one more here. And we'll look forward to reconnecting. So until we get back, be the person you want to be, build the business you want to build, and have the successful life you want to have.